You see, cruelty wears many masks. It hides behind charming smiles and polite pleasantries, a masquerade of virtue concealing venomous intent. People adore their little disguises, those brittle facades that hide their inner rot. They smile, they laugh, they pretend, all the while poisoning the air with whispered lies. But you've always seen past the veneer. You've felt the drip of their poisoned honey, tasted the bitter tang behind each word. And oh, how you watching as they danced their cruel charade, convinced that you were too blind, too naive to grasp the dagger hidden just behind their back. They believed you wouldn't notice, believed you'd never decipher the secret language of their betrayal. They thought you were nothing more than a pawn, a silent observer to their petty games. But you saw it all. Every false smile, every hollow promise, every meticulously calculated act of treachery. You absorbed it like an artist collecting fragments of a dark masterpiece. Each slight was a stroke, each betrayal a shade, painting a picture that was as honest as it was brutal. The true horror of cruelty isn't in the pain itself. No, that's merely the surface. It's the way it infects your mind, the way it plants seeds of doubt in the fertile soil of your soul. They whisper their toxic secrets, sowing uncertainty until you're drowning in a garden of self-doubt. Like a silent, creeping poison, it wraps around your thoughts, constricting your every breath. They are, after all, masters of psychological warfare. They pat you on the back with one hand, while the other digs deep into your foundation, undermining your very confidence. And in their arrogance, they sleep soundly at night, wrapped in the comforting illusion of their own righteousness. But every mask, no matter how ornate, eventually begins to crack. And here is where the tide shifts, the point where their carefully constructed lies start to crumble. They made one fatal mistake. They believed that their cruelty would break you, that you'd shatter into a million irreparable pieces. They intended to sweep you away like debris, to consign you to the dustbin of forgotten souls. But they were sorely mistaken. Instead of breaking you, every lash of cruelty forged you, tempered you like steel in the hottest of fires. Every harsh word, every sting of betrayal, every moment of cold indifference. Each was not a weapon to vanquish you, but the very hammer that shaped your resolve. You absorbed their venom and turned it inward, transmuting every drop of malice into a reservoir of strength. And you remembered it all. Every cruel whisper, every carefully hidden dagger. You cataloged it like a detective collecting evidence at a crime scene, each memory a snapshot of their true nature. And now, oh now, you hold that record like a secret ledger. The ledger of all their lies, all their deceptions, preserved in the clarity of your mind like insects frozen in amber. And so the masks begin to slip. One by one, the disguises fade until, underneath, there is nothing left but raw, unadulterated ugliness. The pretty lies crumble, and in their place stands the true face of cruelty. A face so hideous, so desperate, that it defies the very notion of beauty. They thought that justice would come with loud trumpets, with judges in robes pounding gavels, with righteous banners unfurled high. But real justice, divine justice, operates in silence. It is patient, a quiet force seeping into every crack and crevice of their world, freezing their foundations with the slow, relentless inevitability of nature's own hand. Every lie they told, every soul they wounded, every act of cruelty they committed in the dark, it's all coming back, not with a cacophonous roar, but with the silent certainty of an avalanche in motion, a force that will crash down upon them when they least expect it. They won't see it coming because they are too engrossed in their self-importance, too blinded by their own invincibility. They believed they were untouchable, free to spread pain without consequence. But they've forgotten one fundamental truth. Every action, no matter how cruel, births an equal and opposite reaction. They played their game as if they were the puppeteers, manipulating, controlling, discarding pawns at whim. Yet in their arrogance, they overlooked a single, irrevocable truth. Even the lowliest pawn can rise to become a queen. And you, dear one, have been silently studying the board all along. While they reveled in their so-called cleverness, you evolved, you adapted. You learned the intricacies of their manipulations, absorbing every lesson like a sponge in a storm of deceit. In the quiet, shadowed corners of your soul, you were constructing something they never anticipated, something beyond their limited petty imagination. Their cruelty, their calculated attempts to diminish and control, have become the very instruments of their downfall. Each wound they inflicted was not a mark of victory but a stepping stone, a lesson in strength. Every betrayal only added to your arsenal, every attempt to break you a spark that ignited a far greater power. And now, as you stand on the precipice of a new era, you are about to unleash a reckoning that will shatter the very foundations of their carefully constructed world. Oh, how they tremble now, even if they do not yet understand the full extent of what is coming. In the small moments between their forced smiles and their hollow laughter, there is a hint of dread. They sense a change in the air, a charged electric presence that foretells their imminent undoing. It is as if the universe itself is leaning in, whispering that every act of cruelty has not been forgotten, that every hidden act of malice is being meticulously tallied. They see it in your eyes now, an unyielding gaze that speaks of unwavering strength, a look that tells them you are no longer the victim they once thought you to be. For the most exquisite irony of all is that in their ruthless bid to break you, they inadvertently forge something unstoppable. You are no longer a broken soul. You are a force of nature, a living embodiment of divine justice. Every moment of suppressed anguish, every quiet act of endurance has been a masterclass in resilience. They mistook your silence for submission, but it was the very silence of a storm gathering strength, waiting patiently to unleash its fury. And now justice is not coming from an external force. It is not delivered by the clanging of gavels or the pronouncements of self-righteous judges. No. Justice has seeped into every fiber of your being. It is the calm in your storm, the quiet conviction that every act of cruelty, every spiteful gesture will return to its sender with the unyielding precision of fate's own hand. Their lies, their schemes, their calculated malice, they have all been recorded in an eternal ledger, a cosmic account that cannot be denied. And the interest on their debt has been compounding, silently, inexorably. You stand at the edge of this reckoning, not as a victim, but as the living embodiment of their own undoing. With every step you take, with every success you achieve, you chip away at the walls of their deception. The very existence of your defiance is a testament to the truth they tried so desperately to bury. You are the mirror reflecting their hidden darkness, the consequence they never saw coming. And in that reflection, they finally see the monstrous visage of their own making, a visage marred by cruelty, arrogance, and the unbearable weight of their guilt. They once reveled in their power, convinced that they were the arbiters of destiny, the masters of life and death. They played with cruelty as if it were a toy, a means to exert control, to carve out their own twisted sense of order. They did not understand that true power is not measured by the ability to inflict pain, but by the capacity to transform that pain into something transcendent. Real strength comes from the crucible of suffering, from the ability to rise unbowed, unbroken, and utterly transformed. And you are that transformation incarnate. Look how they scramble now, their confidence eroding like fragile sandcastles before an inexorable tide. In their eyes flickers the dawning realization that every cruel word, every malicious act, was merely the prologue to their own downfall. The very masks they wore have become mirrors, revealing not the beauty they so desperately tried to project, but the ugliness lurking beneath. And you, dear soul, are the relentless force that unmasks them. With every quiet step, every measured breath, you reveal the truth that they tried so desperately to hide. That cruelty, like all things, has its reckoning. Do you hear it? The quiet cadence of divine justice is drawing nearer. It is not heralded by fanfare or violence, but by the slow, inevitable unraveling of their carefully constructed lies. Like water seeping into the cracks of a stone, it finds every weakness, every hidden chink in their armor. And soon, oh so very soon, they will realize that their power was always an illusion, that their cruelty was a self-destructive art form that ultimately painted their own ruin. They believed that by inflicting pain, they could define you. They believed that every insult, every betrayal, every calculated act of malice was a stroke in the portrait of your downfall. But in truth, they were writing a different story entirely. A story of resurrection, of rebirth forged in the fires of their own making. You have taken every scar, every shard of despair, and transmuted it into something luminous. Every wound is now a badge of honor, a testament to your strength. You are no longer a victim of their cruelty. You have become a living, breathing monument to resilience and transformation. Imagine the scene as you step forward, unbowed and unwavering. The room grows quiet as your presence fills the space, a presence that radiates the cold, precise certainty of someone who has tasted both darkness and the sweetest possibility of redemption. Their laughter falters. Their voices, once so full of scorn, drop to a trembling murmur. They see in you the embodiment of a power they could never comprehend. A power born of every whispered lie and every hidden dagger they ever wielded against you. And now, as you stand at the crossroads of destiny, the final act unfolds. Every moment of cruelty they inflicted has built up to this exact instant. The moment when divine justice is no longer a distant promise, but a living, undeniable reality. It seeps into the world like a slow-moving tide, relentless and unstoppable, until every fortress of falsehood, every tower of arrogance, crumbles into dust. The echoes of their deceit will haunt them as the ledger of their sins is opened, and the debt is called in full, with interest compounded over the long years of their transgressions. There is a delicious irony in it all. For in trying to silence you, to diminish your very spirit, they unwittingly fueled the rise of something far greater than they could have ever imagined. They set the stage for their own demise with every act of cruelty, every moment of calculated indifference. And now, as the universe exacts its quiet, unyielding revenge, they must face the truth that they were never the architects of fate. They were merely players in a game that was always destined to overturn them. So let them watch in dismay as you transform every cruel moment into a stepping stone toward your own triumph. Let them witness the metamorphosis of every wound into a banner of defiance, every act of malice into a spark that ignited the flames of your renewal. Your rise is not an act of vengeance. It is an inevitable reclamation of power. The justice that you embody is not born of anger or retribution, but of an unyielding belief in transformation, the certainty that even the darkest cruelty can be turned into something luminous. And in this transformation, every whisper of cruelty, every suppressed tear, becomes a note in a grand symphony, a symphony composed by fate itself, a symphony that crescendos into the revelation of their own ruin, as every shadow they cast becomes a light that exposes the hollowness of their existence. Their carefully built world, constructed on the shaky foundation of manipulation and deceit, begins to crumble like a house of cards in a storm. And you stand amidst the ruins not as a casualty, but as the master of your own destiny. Hear the silence that follows, the silence that speaks louder than any outcry of revenge. It is the silence of a universe that has finally balanced its scales. It is the silence of divine justice, meticulous and unwavering, slowly rewriting the very rules of the game. And you, with your unbreakable spirit and your luminous scars, are both its instrument and its triumph. So, as they cower in the dwindling twilight of their power, let them see clearly that the one they sought to crush has risen as the living embodiment of their downfall. Let them taste the bitter irony that every attempt to diminish you has only elevated your strength. For in every dark moment, in every calculated act of cruelty, you found the spark that lit the fuse of your transformation. And now, as the slow avalanche of justice draws near, they will finally learn that true power is not the ability to inflict pain, but the power to rise, to transform, and to become an unstoppable force of nature.